somebody finally said it out loud. Not you. Not the friend who's been in your corner since the beginning. Somebody from the inside. Somebody whose name carries weight in the room where decisions get made about you behind your back. They sat down somewhere, in front of someone, and they told the truth about what was actually happening. They named it. They didn't soften it. They didn't dress it up in the language people use when they want to protect everyone's reputation, including their own. And right now, in apartments and offices and cars all across the lives of people who tried to bury you, phones are buzzing with the same 3 words. He knows. She knows. Did you see? They didn't think this day was coming. They had calculated for every variable except the one where somebody on their side decided their conscience was worth more than their seat at the table. For years you sounded crazy. That's the part that ate at you the most, wasn't it? Not the original thing they did. The way that telling the truth about it made you look unstable, paranoid, bitter, stuck. You'd bring it up at the wrong dinner and watch people's eyes glaze over. You'd try to explain the pattern and someone would change the subject to a TV show. You started editing yourself. You started leaving pieces of the story out because the full version made strangers uncomfortable and friends tired. There were nights you wondered if you were the problem. If you'd built a whole skyscraper of meaning on top of a misunderstanding. If everyone else moving on was the sane response, and you holding on was the broken one. And then this. Then someone with no reason to lie says the thing you've been saying. And every doubt you had about your own mind suddenly has a receipt. There's a particular silence that falls on a group of people when their cover story stops working. You can almost hear it through walls. The group chat that used to fire off 40 messages a day goes quiet for 6 hours. The mutual friend who always knew exactly what to text you suddenly forgets your number. The person who confidently told everyone you were exaggerating is now phrasing things very carefully, hedging, saying, well, I only ever heard one side, as if they weren't the loudest voice on that one side for 2 solid years. They're not regrouping. They're scrambling. There's a difference. Regrouping has a plan. Scrambling is what happens when the plan was built on the assumption that no one important would ever back your version of events. And now someone important has. And now the math doesn't work anymore. Watch who texts you this week. Not the ones who never doubted you. They've been there the whole time and they don't need a press release to keep loving you. Watch the lukewarm ones. The cousin who liked your posts but never called. The old coworker who said, we should catch up every December and never picked a date. The friend who privately agreed with you but publicly stayed out of it because she didn't want to take sides. They're going to surface this week with concerned little messages, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay with everything. Don't be cruel to them. Don't be warm to them either. Just notice. Notice who showed up before the verdict and who showed up after. That information is worth more than an apology, because apologies can be performed, and timing cannot be faked. The people who lied about you are doing math right now. They're going back through old conversations, trying to figure out what they said in writing versus what they said out loud. They're trying to remember which version of the story they told to which person, because they told different versions to different audiences, and now those audiences are comparing notes. The wife who never quite bought it is asking sharper questions over dinner. The boss who promoted the wrong person is realizing the wrong person is also a liability. The friend who chose the other side is feeling that specific stomach drop you feel when you suspect for the first time that you might have bet on the loser. None of this is happening because you posted something. None of this is happening because you finally clapped back. This is happening because the truth got a witness, and witnesses are harder to argue with than victims. Something shifts in your own body when you stop having to prove yourself. It's almost physical. The shoulders drop half an inch. The breath goes a little deeper. The conversations in your head get quieter because you're no longer rehearsing a defense for a courtroom that wasn't going to let you speak anyway. You sleep differently. You eat differently. You walk into rooms you used to dread, and they don't have the same gravity anymore. People notice. They can't name it, but they notice. They'll say you look good. They'll say something about you seems different. What's different is that the part of you that was carrying the weight of being disbelieved just set the weight down, and the rest of you is finally upright for the first time in a long time.
Don't celebrate. Not the loud kind. Loud celebration is for people who needed the world to see them win. And that was never quite your problem. Your problem was needing the world to see you correctly. And that's a smaller, deeper thing, and it doesn't get fixed by a victory lap. Pour the drink if you want to. Sit on the back step with it. Let the dog out. Let yourself feel the specific flavor of vindication that nobody warns you about, which is that it tastes a little like grief. Grief for the years you spent explaining. Grief for the friendships that didn't survive the explanation. Grief for the version of you that walked into all of this trusting people who'd already decided how the story was going to end. Celebrate quietly. Quiet is harder to take from you. I always believed you. Get ready for that sentence. It's coming. It's going to arrive in your inbox and across coffee tables and in long voice notes from people who absolutely did not always believe you, who in fact actively did not believe you, who said things to other people about your character that they hope you never find out about. You don't have to call them on it. You don't have to be gracious about it either. There's a third option that most people forget exists, which is to simply receive the sentence, say something neutral, and let it sit in the air between you without comment. Let them feel the shape of their own revision. That feeling is its own kind of correction, and it does more work than anything you could say back. Their memory will do the punishing. Memory is good at that when it's allowed to. Power moves in funny ways once a story breaks. The person who confirmed your version didn't just hand you the truth, they handed you leverage. People who weren't returning your calls last month are suddenly available. Doors that were locked are propped open with a foot. Opportunities that were already filled have a vacancy again. Be careful here. This is the moment where a lot of people make their second mistake. They get rewarded for being right, and they confuse the reward with the validation. And they take meetings they shouldn't take, and they let people back into their life who only came back because the wind changed. The wind will change again. Don't build your house on it. Build it on the same ground you were standing on when nobody believed you, because that ground is the only ground that's been honest with you the whole way through. You stayed. That's the sentence to sit with tonight. Not I won, not they finally see. You stayed. When the evidence was thin and the audience was hostile and the cost of telling the truth was higher than the cost of pretending, you stayed with the story anyway. You kept the receipts. You kept your mouth shut when you needed to and open when it counted. You let people misunderstand you for as long as it took. And now someone has walked into the room and said the thing, and the room has gone quiet, and you are still standing in the same place you've been standing for years. Except now the floor is solid underneath you instead of suspicion. The ones who scrambled, they were never going to be on your side. They were on the side of whoever was winning. You don't need them now. You needed yourself, and you had yourself. And that turns out to have been enough.